it off. So hopefully this will work just fine. As we look at the Oedipus text, we realize exactly what Tori just realized, that there seems to be some amount of irony, and Chloe identified this as well, irony, contrast, contradiction, balancing, flipping back and forth. Take the example that Tori just gave. Tiresias is physically blind, yet what does he possess?
Insight.
Insight. That's correct, an inner sight. So notice the blind versus sight contrast. So when you think blind, you also think sight. Oedipus is physically sighted, and yet he is ignorant. He has no insight. When he finally gains this insight, what does he lose? His physical sight. So Tori says it's pretty interesting that this one guy is physically blind and yet he's got insight, and the guy that he's arguing against has physical sight, but he has absolutely no insight. Absolutely. Now, this is part of Sophocles' style, because Sophocles carries this down to the very unit of the word. When you see a word like light, L-I-G-H-T, in the text, because of Sophocles' style, what would you automatically think of? Well, knowledge and understanding, but also?
Literally light.
Well, true. You think of light, you think of knowledge, you think of insight. I'm sorry? Oh, good. It connects to Apollo. But all of you are talking on the level of comparison, on similarity. Correct. So when Sophocles uses a word like light, he's also using it to refer to dark. And quite often when he says, I will bring light to this situation, let's make up a line from Oedipus. If Oedipus says, I will shed light on this situation by finding the murderer, what's he actually going to do?
Make things a whole lot tougher. Or, I guess,
For himself, he's going to bring darkness to himself, so the light and darkness are the same. That contrast exists. It's almost a contradiction that coincides. Jordan.
Like, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, how they're the same.
Let me give an example from what we discussed on Wednesday. And this comes from, if it'll ever come up, this comes from the chorus speech at the end of part 2. I'm sorry, the end of part 1, right at the beginning of part 2. So this should be just about page 33. I'll read a portion of this. Insolence gives birth to tyranny, that insolence which vainly crams itself and overflows with so much stuff beyond what's right or beneficial, that once it's climbed to the highest rooftop, it's hurled down by force, such a quick fall, there's no safe landing on one's feet. Within this section, the chorus is talking about what we understand to be the tragic fall. However, Sophocles is fairly clever in his use of language. He includes a word in here which refers to both what the author means and its opposite. It's sort of a double meaning because of its placement within the play Oedipus Rex. Take a look at that section that I just read. Which word in there seems to be not only what it means, but also its opposite because of its connection to Oedipus? Not stuff. I love how students look at stuff and they're like, oh, this is awesome. It's a classical piece of literature which uses the word stuff. Brian?
maybe insolence?
No, insolence means insolence. So insolence doesn't mean its opposite. Insolence just means insolence. Tyranny, once again, just means tyranny. So tyranny does not mean benevolence. If tyranny also meant benevolence at the same time, it would be a word meaning both itself and its opposite. You're closer. I'm sorry? Pious?
No,
Highest. No, because what we've got is something going to the highest rooftop and then falling down, which is said. So when we talk about highest, we do actually mean highest. Jordan. Once again, closer. I'm doing the Ben Stein moment. Elizabeth? Let's see, where is beneficial? Beyond what's right or beneficial. No, once again, they're talking about somebody going beyond safety, beyond healthiness. Thank you. Tori, why is it feet?
Well, at first I just guessed, but now I'm thinking that did it have anything to do with how he was tied up by his feet?
Yes, because Oedipus' feet are disfigured, right? If I say I'm standing on my own 2 feet, or I say I'm safely landing on my feet, what do I mean? I'm landing on my feet, I'm standing on my own 2 feet, I am up on my feet, I've got my feet on the ground. What do I mean?
Your self, to do things for yourself, like your.
Well, by my, on my own 2 feet, that means that I am secure, that means I am safe, that means I have a good foundation, right? That means I'm solid. If I'm on my own 2 feet, we use that metaphor always to mean that somebody is stable and has a good foundation. So when the chorus says there's no safe landing on one's feet, they're using that metaphor to indicate safety, to indicate security, to indicate a good foundation. But what do we know about Oedipus' feet? They're flawed. There's no foundation with Oedipus' feet, right? Because they're disfigured. Okay, so the light's going on over Jordan's head. What we see is that Sophocles uses the word feet in 2 ways to mean 2 things. One is a strong foundation. The other is weakness. Because Oedipus' feet are his flaw. They are his weakness. On the surface, the chorus means strong foundation. We know, because we know about Oedipus, that it also means weakness. On the second page of the text, the chorus says that they are crouching down around your altars. And they're talking about Oedipus. And they're talking about begging in front of him. In another translation I've read, they say literally, we are falling at your feet. What would they be looking for when they're falling at his feet? Brian? No, the chorus is begging him for what? At the beginning, for strength, right? They say, we're falling at your feet. We want your strength. We want your guidance. Why? Because the land is in peril. The land is dying. We want your strength. We're falling at your feet. But as an audience, what do we know? Because he is what's destroying them. Absolutely, Abby. He's not capable of being what they need because he is the influence of destruction. He is the tainted part of Thebes. He is the disease in Thebes. So when Sophocles says we fall at your feet, he does mean they're looking for strength. He also means at the same time that what they're finding is disease. What they're finding is flaw. The word feet is loaded. It means itself and its opposite. And if Oedipus says, I will bring light to this situation, on one level he means, I will actually bring safety and security to this. I will bring the light of knowledge. But on the other hand, we know that it also means that he will bring darkness to this. He will bring destruction to himself, devastation for him and his family. So light and darkness are intertwined. Jordan?
Does the dark of it come from, what is that?
The darkness?
Him, you said he'd shed light on, the situation, but how, I don't know.
How would he shed light on it? By finding the murderer of Laios.
And he does that by, finding out that it was him? Is that the dark?
Yes, exactly, yes.
So, about Oedipus, the people want him to be the solution, but he can't because of
Correct. So they see him as the solution, but he is the problem. Do you see that's a good way of characterizing. You see the contrast? So when they say feet, they say strength, but we know it's weakness. So the word is its contradiction. It implies both meanings. And what Sophocles does is drop references to sight and blindness and light and dark and knowledge and ignorance and feet to indicate both the thing and its opposite. This is what we would call, or what I'm calling today, a contrast in diction. Diction means word choice. He uses the very unit of the word to carry a contrast. Oedipus is filled with contrasting elements.